What if everything we believe about personal change was based on outdated thinking? The fascinating work of a plastic surgeon revealed that transforming our lives is more like programming a computer than forcing change through willpower alone.
That's such an intriguing perspective. How did a plastic surgeon end up making these discoveries about human behavior?
Well, Doctor, Maxwell Maltz noticed something remarkable in his practice. Even after completely transforming patients' appearances through surgery, many remained just as unhappy as before. That observation led him to realise that our self-image, not our actual appearance, determines our success and happiness.
So, you're saying that even dramatic external changes don't automatically fix our internal programming?
Exactly right. And here's where it gets really interesting. Through studying cybernetics, the science of self-regulating systems, Maltz discovered that our brain operates like a sophisticated goal-seeking mechanism. Just like a guided missile constantly adjusts its course to hit a target, our mind automatically moves us toward whatever self-image we hold.
That's fascinating. But how do we actually reprogram this mental machinery?
Well, the key is understanding that it takes about 21 days to create any meaningful change in our mental programming. Think of it like installing new software. You can't just flip a switch. You need to consistently practice new thought patterns until they become automatic.
That makes sense. But what happens during those 21 days? How do we actually create that change?
The process is remarkably similar to how elite athletes train. You spend 30 minutes each day in what Maltz calls mental rehearsal, vividly imagining yourself succeeding, handling challenges well, and being the person you want to become. And here's the fascinating part. Research shows your brain can't actually tell the difference between a vividly imagined experience and a real one.
That's incredible. Though I imagine some people might be skeptical about just imagining their way to success.
You know what's interesting about that skepticism? Maltz actually addresses it directly. He says it doesn't matter if you believe it at first. The belief comes through practice. It's like learning to ride a bike. You don't need to believe you can do it perfectly at first. You just need to keep practicing until your body learns the patterns.
So how does this mental programming actually work in real-world situations?
Let me give you a concrete example. Say you're terrified of public speaking. Instead of trying to force yourself through it with willpower, you'd spend time each day vividly imagining yourself giving confident presentations. You'd picture the room, feel the confidence in your body, hear your strong voice. Over time, your brain begins to accept this new programming as reality.
That's fascinating. But what about when things go wrong? How does this system handle real crises?
This is where Maltz's approach gets really practical. He says we should treat crises like fire drills, practice our responses when we're not under pressure. The key is maintaining what he calls an aggressive, goal-directed attitude, rather than a defensive one. Instead of thinking, I hope nothing goes wrong, you think, no matter what happens, I can handle it.
You know, this reminds me of modern neuroscience findings about neuroplasticity, how our brains can actually rewire themselves based on our thoughts and experiences.
Exactly. Maltz was way ahead of his time. He understood that our nervous system responds to what we believe is true, not necessarily what is actually true. That's why hypnosis can work. Your nervous system reacts to what you imagine to be real.
But what about happiness? Isn't that what most people are ultimately seeking?
Here's where Maltz really turns conventional wisdom on its head. He argues that happiness isn't something you earn or deserve. It's simply a state of mind where your thoughts are pleasant most of the time. And get this, he found that happiness actually leads to success, not the other way around.
That's quite different from how most people think about happiness and success.
Right? And here's another counterintuitive finding. Maltz discovered that it's physically impossible to feel fear, anxiety, or any negative emotions when your body is completely relaxed. That's why relaxation techniques are such a crucial part of his system.
How does someone actually put that into practice though?
Well, one of his key techniques is creating what he calls a quiet room in your mind, a mental space where you can go to completely relax and reset. It's like having a mental sanctuary you can access any time. The more you practice going there, the more that sense of calm carries over into your daily life.
That's really powerful. But what about chronic worriers? People who can't seem to shut off their anxiety.
Maltz has a fascinating solution for that. Instead of trying to stop worrying through willpower, he suggests immediately substituting pleasant mental images for worry images. It's like changing the channel in your mind, and here's the key. You don't fight the negative thoughts, you simply replace them.
So it's more about redirecting than resisting.
Precisely. And this ties into one of his most powerful insights, that our creative mechanism, what he calls our subconscious mind, can't tell the difference between a real experience and one that's vividly imagined. So when you imagine positive outcomes in detail, your brain begins preparing for them just as if they were really happening.
That's remarkable. What would you say is the most important takeaway from all this?
I think it's that we all have this incredible success mechanism built into us, but most of us never learned how to use it properly. It's like having a high-performance computer, but never reading the manual. Once you understand how to program your mental machinery correctly, you can achieve things you never thought possible.
This has been absolutely fascinating. It really shows how ahead of his time Maltz was with these concepts.
Indeed. And what's amazing is that modern neuroscience keeps validating his findings. Whether you're trying to advance in your career, improve your relationships, or just live a happier life, understanding how to properly use your mental machinery is key. The trick is remembering that real change takes time, those 21 days minimum, and consistent practice.
Well, this has certainly given me a lot to think about. And practice.
That's exactly right. And remember, start with the relaxation exercises, work on your self-image, and be patient with the process. As Maltz says, you act and feel not according to what things are really like, but according to the image your mind holds of what they are like. Change that image and you change everything.